right. I'm going to go ahead and call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Board of Commissioners. It's November 18th, 2020. And we'll begin with the Commissioner's public statement read by Commissioner Jones, please.
We, the Monroe County Board of Commissioners, renew our commitment to welcome and protect the rights of all people, regardless of age, color, creed, disability, sexual orientation, gender identity, marital status, economic status, and national origin. And we affirm the right of every person to live peacefully and without fear, and we will fight and resist at every step discrimination and harmful policies, whatever their source. We also stand in support of our county public school systems, both RBB and MCCSC.
Great, thank you so much. And with that, we will begin our department updates, and we'll start with Ms. Penny Caudill. Welcome, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here again today. Appreciate it. I will start with the Board of Health met last week, and they revised their community regulations around COVID-19. They can be found on our website, and then we will be pushing those out on social media. We sent out a press release last evening. So the governor, the new executive order, the governor made some changes as well. So individuals may expect that there may be some additional changes that come down the pike just in terms of kind of cleanup and merging those things a little more closely. But our press release, we tried to put out and include links in that so that people can look at the executive order from the governor and look at it, and then look at our local regulations as well, because both apply. And again, we can be more strict, but we cannot be less. So if you see something that's different, just know that the most strict is what you need to go by in those terms. I do fully expect our metrics map on the dashboard for the state to be in orange today, and that does kick in some additional restrictions. And the health officer has also indicated some changes that he, given the authority from the health board, will also request and put in place from individuals. So one change that I want to note is that with the governor's executive order, commercial gatherings and social gatherings are now the same. There's no distinction between them. And so that is something that people need to kind of keep in mind. So some of the changes that we made to the regulations, we did clarify a few things. For instance, if you are indoors and exercising, that if you are doing aerobic exercise, that's what might exempt you from wearing that mask when it's incompatible with exercise. But if you are indoors and you're doing something that maybe you consider a sport, billiards, for example, that is not an aerobic exercise that exempts you from wearing a mask. So we tried to clarify that a little bit. Bars and restaurants do need to have tabletop seating for patrons and require patrons to be seated and masked unless they are actively eating or drinking. That's in the governor's order. We have tried to clarify as well that we expect patrons to wear their masks when they are ordering or when they're being served, and that is to protect the staff. What we heard when we talked to restaurants and bars is that staff were concerned about going up repeatedly to tables of unmasked people. And so we simply ask people to do the right thing and put that mask on when you were have your waiter, your server at your table, really give it, serving you or taking your order. Something else that was in the executive order, it was in our order, but we tried to clarify, is no standing, congregating, or dancing allowed inside the establishment boundaries or the parameters. That was already in there, but there were some questions about that, so we just tried to make that very clear for people. We do still encourage outdoor seating as much as possible. I know that the weather is making that more and more difficult, but we know that being indoors in crowded places makes things more difficult and risky. Party sizes are still limited to 10 people, but again, clarifying that putting up a plexiglass barrier does not replace that 6-foot distancing. So in other words, if you want to put up a barrier between booths for perhaps down the road safety, you are certainly welcome to do that as an establishment, but currently you still need 6-foot distance. So it would essentially be every other booth. Restaurants and bars may now have a bar top ordering site. So one of the other things that we heard from places is that they were a little uncomfortable going up to the tables, but they felt like they could keep people masked, their staff could be masked, and they could take orders and send people back to their seats pretty efficiently. And so the board heard that, accepted that with some parameters. They must have a line that is spaced 6 feet apart, 6 feet from people who are seated. People must be masked. There has to be markings for what those 6 feet are, including the beginning and the ending of that line. So we tried to listen and use the science as well and merge those where we could. We do encourage people to think about their space and people waiting to be seated. So if you can use reservation system to limit people waiting, if you can have people wait in their cars or vehicles and not in that normal waiting area that sometimes is very, very small and you can't distance. So we need people to maintain that 6-foot distancing as much as they can. So we ask for people's cooperation in this, and the additional things that kind of kick in terms of, I mentioned the health officer, in orange, the governor's order, we are limited to 50 people. We have been pretty much half of that we've been at 50. So we've been below, sometimes half what the state is or below that. So the health officer is we're in orange, he expects a 25 maximum capacity. So that's residential and commercial again, and that's in the executive order. There's no difference between those now. And so that's kind of out of our hands. We also will not allow any self-service buffet style service in restaurants. So if we go back to yellow, you can have a buffet if your staff served it, but in orange, no buffets at all. So those are the primary things that we just wanted to talk about. Oh, the other thing, in orange, early closure for bars and restaurants of 1 a.m. So please make note of those things. They are to keep us all safe. Our numbers are continuing to increase, and we don't anticipate, while we are in orange, approving any exemptions for gathering size limits. It would be a rare extenuating circumstance and still require all the necessary precautions. But while we are in orange, we don't anticipate doing any exemptions. We do not plan to rescind any that we have given because we have looked at those, but we would encourage people to take extra precautions if they have something that's been approved. As I said, our daily numbers are increasing, so we know that we have community spread that is concerning, but we don't have to. We know how to change this. Sleepovers, parties, not masking, not distancing, those are things that are not in anyone's best interest. So I ask everyone to kind of dig your heels in and do the right thing, wear your mask. So, put that 6-foot distance between you, limit your kind of social bubble, do all of those things, because we want to gather, right? And we have Thanksgiving coming up, and we know that that's going to be different. And then we have other holidays like Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, other things that are coming up where we want to gather as well. If our numbers continue, we're not going to be doing that either. But we can change this, but we need to act now. So I really ask that everybody make those changes. If you've loosened up your guard, you've let your guard down, just kind of rethink, regroup, and put those prevention practices back into place, because we can turn this around. Testing sites are open. Testing sites people are seeking out lots of testing. The Optum site is doing over 400 tests a day. Our community site is open, so please schedule your appointments there as well. They just opened this week, and I think yesterday they saw almost 80 people. So we want to also encourage people to use that. I know that the registration system is a little clunkier, but you can do that. Go online, complete the registration ahead of time, and you will get through there very quickly. Reports from the testing sites is that many of the people are symptomatic or they are close contacts. And that just supports that we know there's a lot of community spread. It also means that the more testing that's being done, which is good, the longer sometimes test results can take. But for the most part, it is still around that 3-day turnaround. Sometimes it's going to be a little longer just because of how many tests are being done. But we want to emphasize a close contact, again, is being within 6 feet for 15 minutes or more. A contact to a contact is not a contact. So you can continue to monitor for symptoms like you do every day, but you don't need to get overly scared. Just continue to monitor. If you've heard that a friend of a friend tested positive, just think, were you around that person? And if not, then just continue to monitor and take the normal precautions. Also, we'll remind people that a negative test today does not mean that you couldn't still be incubating. So if you are a close contact and you test negative, you are still to be quarantined other than seeking out that test. You should be away from others for the full 14 days unless you do test positive. We are in this together. As I said, I know that we want to gather with our friends and family, and we can do it. We just need to take these prevention steps. And I want to say thank you to those who have been doing this all along, who have started doing it. And again, just a reminder, if you haven't been following the precautions or you've kind of let your guard down a little bit, now's the time to recommit to doing all those things so that we can beat this virus together. And for some good news, vaccine news is good. It's looking promising. We are planning to have vaccine clinics in the spring. So we will get there, and we want to get there safely. So again, now's the time for us to take precautions so that we can do that. With the rising number, I know that schools are kind of changing up some of the things that they're doing, which is fine. They've set protocols and plans in place and they're following them, they're making decisions. But I also want to be very, very clear that we are not seeing classroom spread. The university isn't. We are not seeing that in our schools. There are people who are getting infected, and they may have been in the schoolroom or the classroom, but we're not seeing those contacts. One, we're not seeing a lot of close contacts in the classroom because the schools are doing a good job of potting students and keeping them apart, but we're also not seeing spread. And that's a good thing. It tells us that the schools are really a safer place to be than what people may think. But it also tells us that people are getting infected outside of school. Again, it's the sleepover. It is the study group. It is those kinds of things where people are not not masking, not distancing, and getting infected. So just keep those things in mind as we think about schools and what we're doing that, sorry about that, that as we think about what we're doing, that school is actually a safe place to be. And I want to commend the teachers and the schools and the parents for handling this very difficult time. Something else that I want to mention is that our family planning clinic, Futures Clinic, is open, seeing patients, and have safety protocols in place. Call first for your appointment and find out how to obtain those services. But if you are needing your reproductive health care, your birth control, we are open and would encourage people to call and make their appointment. And the last thing that I will add is our compliance officers went out again last weekend. That is really going very well. They're not getting a lot of resistance. People are pretty compliant, and they're being able to offer guidance and suggestions for places that may be having times of struggles or certain things that they're struggling with. So we're very pleased and say thank you to those officers, but also to you, commissioners, for providing those for us so that we have that extra arm of the health department. I think it's proving very, very helpful. So with that, I think I'm done unless you have questions.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Cottle. So much important information to go over. I'm so grateful for that. Commissioner Jones, comments, questions?
Just that it's very good news that there's not classroom spreading going on. And also I'm pleased to hear that the compliance officers are working out so well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner Gissens?
I just also want to give a shout out to the bus drivers because they're part of keeping those kids safe and healthy too.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing them up. It's hard to start thanking people because you can't thank everybody.
It is a slippery slope.
Someone, yeah.
Do you have, can you talk a little bit about the flu clinic tomorrow?
Yes, we have a flu clinic tomorrow. It is at City Church, 45 and Russell Road, 45, correct?
Yeah.
I get confused sometimes when I get out that way. From noon to 3, and the registration form, I believe we have online, so you can go ahead and fill that out, bring that with you. That will speed the process up. It is free. We encourage everybody to get their flu shot and kind of help us keep that, influenza out of the hospital, keep people out of the hospital for that. It is certainly possible to get influenza and COVID at the same time. So let's get those vaccinations. If you have not gotten that yet, tomorrow is another opportunity. And there are many flu clinics that have been going on and will continue, but tomorrow is a good opportunity from 12 to 3.
Great. Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really important to get those flu shots. Yes. We don't want to overwhelm our healthcare system unnecessarily. Excellent. Great. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you to your staff, the board, Dr. Sharp, everyone. So there we go, thanking people and going down that slippery slope. Thank you all.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you in a bit. And now we turn to emergency management. Ms. Moore, Allison Moore.
Good morning. I'm excited for the flu clinic. Our office gets to help and assist with that tomorrow. So if that's something you haven't got, just to tag on, we really encourage anybody. You don't even have to get out of your vehicles. You'll be able to drive through. So that will keep the spread of COVID down. So if that's a concern you have, we'll all have face coverings on. That will be making those services to give those shots out. So we definitely encourage the public to do that. We are still continuing to have blood drives for the 2020 year to help with the lack of blood that we have in our area. And our November blood drives are all full, which is a wonderful thing. But we do have 2 blood drives scheduled in December that still have availability. They're both at the Monroe County Convention Center. And you can register for either date at the redcross.org website. We do have a flyer with all this information on our county website under the emergency management tab as well. Those 2 December dates are December 21st, which is the daytime. So those hours are from 10 to 3. And then December 23rd, which is our evening time slot. So it will have the hours of 2 to 7. So if either one of those dates you have availability, we encourage you to make that donation and be able to help your community out by giving that donation during the December months. We also have face coverings available for anybody that may in fact need one. We have those located for residents throughout many fire station and trustees offices. And at first, when we first put that and implemented that program in, we had several people, and most people probably have face coverings at this point in this pandemic, but sometimes they get old and they've been washed several times and they might be getting thin. And so if that's something that you might need to have a duplicate of, those face coverings are still available, and those spots throughout the community where you can pick one of those up for free is on our county website. Again, under that emergency management tab, that website is co.monroe.in.us. They are just to help keep the spread down, and for those individuals at those places to know that you're coming, we do ask that you make a quick phone call first to make arrangements on when might be the best time to pick up that face covering. But if that's something you need, it is available. And then we also have face coverings for our businesses and our those that serve the public, in case they'd have an individual come to their business and not have a face covering on and might need one, that they could readily have available to hand to an individual so that they could still provide them service, and then they could all be safe. And so if that's something that a business provider, a restaurant owner, or other individuals in our community might need, they're always welcome to give our office a call or send us an email where we can make arrangements to make sure that they have those. That's all I have for you today.
All right, thank you. Let's see if there are questions for you. Commissioner Jones?
Oh,
Commissioner Giffens?
No, just thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate all your hard work, you and your staff. And I would ask if you would speak very briefly about the residents advisory, and that's how the health order is going out.
Yes. So Ms. Cottle mentioned all the different regulations and updates that the health board has put together. And there are press releases that have been released to various news media, and then they plan to put that on their social media. We will put it, of course, on our social media page as well. We have a mass notification system in our community, which we're very fortunate that the Board of Commissioners have that in place, and that runs through our emergency management office. We send out weather advisories through that system, but we also send out things like health advisories because we want to make sure that our public is safe at all times. And so we're currently this morning working with our tech services department, getting all that appropriate information on the main county health page or on the main county website. As soon as that's up, then we'll be linking a lot of that information that the health department spoke of this morning for easy links. They have it on their county page, on the health department page, but once it's on the main page, we'll send out that mass notification through that mass Everbridge system. And if you've signed up, you will get it. And if that sounds like something that you might be interested in receiving, these health orders, and then of course, other weather related events that may be coming into our area to keep you safe and secure, you can sign up. It's free of charge. You can receive messages via text, via email, both, or even a phone call. And you can do that on the county webpage. As soon as you go to co.monroe.in.us, there's a little box. It's got a little megaphone on it. You click on it and it walks you through the system. If for some reason you don't have access to the internet and that's something that you need assistance with, we are more than happy within our office to help get you set up. A quick phone call to our office and we are more than happy to help. That number is 812-349-2546. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Ms. Moore. Thank you again. And we will now turn to Ms. Ridge, Public Works Director. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't have a lot. I think you've got a lot from Penny and Allison. So we're just doing our normal cutting brush. And we actually had, we have about, in the last year, about 13 new employees on the highway crews. And so we did had someone from LTAP come down on Tuesday and did a snowplow training. It's a half-day training just to get them familiar with the do's and don'ts of, slide off, soft shoulders, things like that. And manipulating the truck with the heavy snowplow on the front of it. So hate to say we're gearing up for snow, but it's probably right around the corner. So that's pretty much all I have. I do believe community crossing grant application announcements will be out within the next week from what I'm told. So
excellent.
Cross our fingers for that.
Yeah, excellent. I don't know. We've got skill on our side, Ms. Ridge. I don't know if we need to cross our fingers, but we'll do that too.
I'm gonna cross my fingers. I know they got a lot more applications than they have money. So,
Yeah.
but I'm thankful for everything we've gotten in the past, and we'll just, if we don't get it this time, we'll put it in for the next call. So
you're so skilled and so consistent in getting that funding. So kudos to you for everything you've done in the past. Let's see what you can get. Commissioner Jones, comments, questions?
No, not right now.
Commissioner Githens?
No, I just want to remind everybody that when there are wet leaves on the road, they're slick. It's like driving on ice and snow.
it is. I was blowing my leaves the other day, and I actually went out in the street and swept them all, to the edge of the curb before the leaf pickup people showed up. And it is, you're so right. It's like ice on the roads. So please don't blow your leaves out into the roadway.
Yeah, good point. Excellent. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in a bit. All right. Let's see if there are any other department heads here who wish to offer an update. And I don't see any. I'm going to look through here real quick. Okay. All right. So I will note that it's time for public comment, and this is for items that are not on our agenda. With a time limit of 3 minutes per person. And let's see if there are any hands raised.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dayton, as always. And we'll move on to the next item, and these can be combined.
Move approval of the minutes for October 28th, 2020 and November 4th, 2020.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Comments, questions, edits? No? Okay. Excellent. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on approval of minutes October 28th and November 4th, 2020?
Yes. Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Minutes are approved 3-0.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Next item, please.
Move approval of the claims docket, accounts payable November 18th, 2020, and payroll November 20, 2020.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second, and we have Mr. Miller standing by.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
The total for AP claims was $5,894,108.07. A large portion of that was for the distribution of lit. $2,735,455.67 was for lit distribution, as well as $721,223.25 for lit public safety distribution. In addition to that, $370,207.50 was for Centerstone for the second semi-annual payment. $252,174.58 was for E&B paving, which was for Hart Strait, Old State Road 37 North, and Bolting House, in addition to some surface materials. And finally, the last notable claim was Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield in the amount of $237,997.25, which was for November claims and fees. Now, as far as payroll is concerned, the total was $1,575,549.12. $1,111,407.73 was for the main and supplemental payrolls, and the remaining $464,000 $141.39 were for the primarily taxes and retirement.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Miller. Comments or questions? Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Githens?
I had seen something on the claims about a lot of autopsies, and so I was in touch with Joni Shields, and who indicated that we are seeing an increase in drug overdose deaths. We've had more so far this year than all last year. So I hope people will reach out if they need help.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. All right, with that, let's see if there's any public comment.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, seeing none. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on accounts payable November 18th, 2020 and payroll November 20th, 2020?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Miller. Thank you, Mr. Cockrell. I will note that we've received reports, one from the Clerk of the Circuit Court for September 2020, and then weights and measures, not measurers, September 16th to October 15th, 2020. And we will go on to our new business. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on a determination to allow Rumpke to submit an application. And we'll turn first to Mr. Cockrell, please, just for some background information, and then we'll turn it over to the good folks at Rumpke to share with us the information that we need.
Yes, in 2017, the county commissioners passed legislation that requires before a entity submits an application to the state for a permit or other such matters for a solid waste facility, that they have to go through the solid waste management district board to see if it's consistent with their plan, and then also to the county commissioners before they're allowed to make that application. This is a public hearing that has been noticed pursuant to that 2007-18 document, and therefore the commissioner's decision today in question before them is to determine if the facility shall be allowed to submit the application for a state permit or registration based upon the findings of the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District and the Monroe County Board of Commissioners' determination of whether the proposed facility will promote the public health, safety, and general welfare of the citizens of Monroe County. I will note that decision by the Monroe County Solid Waste Management District has been on our website for the public to review, and they did make the certification that this is appropriate to move forward.
Right, thank you so much. And I will note for the public that although that our packet doesn't contain all of that information, it is in one place on the main page of the Monroe County website. If you'd like to look at it while we're going through this, co.monroe.in.us. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Ted Nuera, Ms. Siebert, Christina Siebert, and Mr. Steve Sargent, and to tell us all about this. And then we'll go into hearing from the public. So Mr. Nuera, good morning.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, Commissioner Thomas and board. As you know, my name is Ted Nuera. I'm the Director of Business Development for Rumpke Waste and Recycling. You mentioned that Christina Siebert, who's a consultant from Aptum, is with us today, as well as Steve Sargent. He's our Director of Recycling. We just want to thank you for the opportunity to request approval from the board per ordinance 2007-18 that we may advance this project to the next step. The team is always excited to talk about this project. And at this time, I'm going to try to share my screen. Hopefully it works. Let's see here. How are we doing?
Good.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. So I'm not totally inept at this new form of communication. But as you know, our team is always excited to talk about the project. Let's see here. For a couple of reasons. One, we believe that it will increase environmental sustainability for the community. Two, it's development of essential infrastructure. Three, it will create economic value. And four, it will conform or comply with rigorous local and state regulations relative to location, design, and operation. There's no doubt that we believe that this facility will promote public health and safety and general welfare of Monroe County. As you know, there are multiple steps in the approval process. This project requires approval from the Monroe County Solid Waste District, which was received in September, demonstrating both need and consistency with its plan. As we look forward, there are several more permitting steps. Christina will talk about it. Many of them are local, to include items like the conditional use permitting, site plan approval, location improvement permitting, and then ultimately with the state, IDEM, both development and operating permits. So all of these different agencies have their own set of requirements, traffic, site design, stormwater management. Several things will be reviewed, environmental protection, as we move through this extensive permitting process. So at this time, I'd like to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Steve. Steve, I'll go ahead and drive the presentation, and you just tell me when you want me to go ahead and turn the slide. Board, I've asked both Christina and Steve to move briskly through the presentation, just out of respect for everybody's time on the video here today. As we move towards the end of the presentation, there's a short video of the proposed site. So, Steve.
Thank you, Ted. Commissioners, great to see you this morning. Last time we talked, we were really excited about the demonstration of need proposal. So some of the folks, I think, in the solid waste presentation we did not really know Rumpke that well. And just as a summary of that, we are a very experienced operator, qualified. We have a regional footprint. We're not nationwide. It's a family-based company headquartered in Cincinnati. We serve currently in the states of Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio, and West Virginia. I think it's interesting when you look at our 3,200 employees and 2,600 vehicles, but I think it's interesting, we've listed our facilities, and I thought about this yesterday. There's a total of 43 facilities there listed. And it's very interesting that if we add Monroe County into this, then we would actually have 12 recycling facilities and 14 landfills. And I think that speaks volumes for our company. We are very, very committed to recycling. We know the cost to develop a landfill. They're very costly. They're sometimes hard to manage, and it makes more sense to turn this material and extract it before it gets into the landfill and we cannot recover it again. So it's kind of an interesting component. The other two things I think is really interesting to mention, it's since we last spoke in September in Monroe County, we were selected, Rumpke, as one of the best managed companies in the country. Wall Street Journal recognized us. There were 500 companies. We were the only solid waste company recognized, and that just happened after our presentation at the end of September. And the one that's close to my heart is the Glass Recycling Coalition. They recognized Rumpke. We received a gold level certification. We were one of only 2 companies in the country that got that. And what that is, that's very directly related to the way that we prepare and recover glass, and so we can take it to the market and turn it into a new product. So those are 2 really unique things that that we have come up with recently. So Ted, go ahead and go to the next one if you would. This is I think this is a great picture. We've actually included a new picture I wanted to show you to the bottom left. Rumpke's resource recovery facility definitely will increase the environmental sustainability by supporting the county and district's goals. And we address 4 key points, and they are here bullet pointed on the screen from our demonstration of need. One is, and I think this is important, we will increase the local recycling capability. We don't displace it. We work with what you already have. That leads to bullet point number 2, and we'll provide access to additional recycling infrastructure. In 2014, the state of Indiana passed legislation to increase recycling and take on a 50% recycling goal. And I will tell you, and I've done this a long time, that is a very difficult goal to hit on a statewide basis. And that's not just for Indiana, that's across the country. There's a lot of reasons for that. You've read a lot maybe about China's situation where they've shut down a lot of the markets. We are dealing with a recycling stream today that's very light-weighted. There's not as much paper because of the digital stream. And so these things all contribute to making recycling goals tough to hit. So we think when we have to look at this facility, it will really be a complement to Monroe County, and it really fits well within your plan. One thing that was mentioned is the reduction of miles traveled and the greenhouse gas emission issue. Two things, the landfill that we will utilize for this transfer station is located 20 miles closer than the current landfill used by Hoosier. So that's a check mark for us. We think that's important. The other piece I think that's critically important is we are investing over $1 million in a baling system in this building that we want to bring segregated materials in and process them there and ship them directly to the end market, not where they would be transferred to another location and then broke apart and then transferred. So I think we meet that goal. And the last point I mentioned there is just we align with the district management goals. We really complement them. There's 3 pictures on the screen, and briefly, that's the component parts that we're including from our experience into Monroe County. The Medina facility, we've talked in the past, that system is designed to recover recyclables from the commercial waste stream. And probably give an analogy is when you drive down the street and you see a roll-off box sitting in a strip mall under construction, you'll look in that box and you'll see oftentimes a lot of cardboard and a lot of material that needs to be recycled. This system will help recover that. The glass slide, that's our glass plant in Dayton, Ohio. We bring 6,000 tons a month into that facility. And I mentioned this in the presentation. In the month of July, 70% of the finished product out of that glass plant came back into the state of Indiana. Johns Manville in Richmond, Indiana, Anchor Glass in Lawrenceburg. There is such a demand for good glass now in the containers, and especially now with this vaccine issue, it's really stepped up. People need glass. And so we're very much a part of that solution. The last one on the bottom left, this was only taken on October the 30th. This is the expansion ribbon cutting down at Medora in Jackson County. And that's Jeff Rumpke cutting the ribbon, but Deb Hackman is to the right in the picture. She's the solid waste director we're working with. And I thought it was interesting, Julia Wickard from IDEM, which is one of the acting commissioners there, also attended. This is our second grant from IDEM to expand that. The neat story there, in less than 3 years, we've recovered over 20,000 tons of material has gone through that facility and been shipped back into the market. So it's just a great success story. So we're kind of excited about it. I think we complement your plan very, very well.
Thank you, Steve. Christina?
Yes, good morning, commissioners. It's good to be with you again. I'm going to go through some of the remaining pieces of our need demonstration, then we're going to start talking a little more about the facility specifically here and some of the location and design features. But in addition to those sustainability benefits that Steve just talked about, this facility is going to increase the availability of essential infrastructure in Monroe County. It's going to provide redundancy and transfer capacity, and it's going to provide needed additional transfer capacity. Right now, the county has only one waste and recycling facility, and that's unusual compared to other large counties in Indiana that typically have 2 or more in-county facilities. As disposal tonnages continue to grow, and in order to increase recycling tonnage, the county needs a resilient, redundant, and larger system to rely on. This facility is also going to increase competition. It'll provide an option to negotiate for better service costs, added services, and expanded recycling capabilities, and all of these elements are promoting the general welfare of the citizens of Monroe County. Ted, could you go to the next slide, please? Facilities like this are really highly regulated, and as Ted mentioned, the approval that we're looking for today is one of several that the project still needs to secure. All of the remaining approvals will include a review of detailed technical information by Monroe County and by state staff professionals who are experts in facility development and regulations that are designed to protect public health, safety, and welfare. If we receive approval from you today, Rumpke will next be filing an application for a conditional use permit with the Board of Zoning Appeals. That application will address the county's conditional use zoning criteria that are specific to transfer stations. Transfer stations in Monroe County did not always require conditional use approval, and they could have been developed without Board of Zoning Appeals review. The fact that they're now classified as a conditional use is a testament to the importance that the county has placed on completing thorough technical reviews of these types of facilities. The additional local approvals that Ted referenced, like the improvement location permit from planning, the building and occupancy permits from the building department, and the annual permit from the health department, are all going to require that the facility meet specific regulatory requirements also. And finally, Rumpke has to apply to the state for development and operating permits. IDEM is going to consider all different aspects of the facility's location, design, and plan of operations, and the permit is going to include a number of special conditions that the facility will have to comply with. And then IDEM is going to come out and regularly inspect the facility, as well as the health department. So we're going to be making sure that the facility continues to operate safely, those checks and balances are in place, and that permit with IDEM has to be renewed every 5 years. So that ensures that those standards continue to be met over the life of the facility. I'm going to talk a little bit about the location and design of the facility now. Ted, if you can go to the next slide. Again, these are features that are going to be looked at more closely by the regulatory bodies that we still need approvals from, but we wanted to talk about it a little bit with you today and for the benefit of the public to understand elements of the facility. When we think about whether a location is going to be suitable for a transfer station, we're looking at things like the zoning of the property, the access that we have from transportation, and the surrounding property uses. This proposed facility is well located with good transportation access. It's in the Robinson Industrial Park south of Bloomington, just off of State Road 37. And all of our trucks are going to be arriving and leaving through a stoplight at 37 and Victor Pike. A preliminary traffic study has been done already to look at the traffic impacts in the area, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any material impact to the levels of service at the area intersections, and that's something that'll be looked at more closely through zoning as well. The property is also appropriately zoned as heavy industrial, and that's one of the few zoning designations where a transfer station can even be considered for development in the county. It's located in a designated community under the county's comprehensive plan also. A trucking terminal had been planned for the site. That was an approved use by right under the zoning ordinance, so truck operations are expected on properties with this heavy industrial zoning. And surrounding properties are developed with industrial uses. So again, in the planning department, Board of Zoning Appeals, IDEM, they're all going to look at the facility to make sure that it meets the specific regulatory location requirements and setbacks. Those are going to be particular things like, are we outside the floodplain? Are we outside of wetlands? Are we not impacting sensitive receptors? Are we complying with the offsets from property lines? Those are all going to be looked at as we move forward. There are some unique location features on this site that we're mindful of. There's a couple pictures on this slide of first one being the dry stack stone wall that runs along the southern property boundary. Our design and operations have been kept distant from that wall to ensure that we protect it. And we've had preliminary conversations with the planning department. We expect that the Historic Preservation Board is going to look at that as part of the conditional use permit as well. And we'll be weighing in on whether other protections or preservation efforts are needed for the stone wall. The photo from the Limestone Greenway Trail on the slide also shows that we have good existing vegetation and topography that are going to provide natural screening from the trail. The trail runs between our site and the treatment plant. But again, if the Board of Zoning Appeals looks at that and determines additional screening is required, we're certainly going to be ensuring that we comply with all of those requirements to keep that essential use protected. And next we'll talk about the design, if we can go to the next slide. With respect to the design, we've designed the facility so that it encloses all of the waste handling operations. The waste and recycling building is about 24,000 square feet, and that gives us a lot of interior space so that we can manage our truck traffic and different waste and recyclable materials safely and efficiently inside of the building. You'll see in the upper right image on this slide that the floor area is fairly open. That gives us few obstructions and good operational flexibility. The building is going to be constructed of steel and reinforced concrete, and those are industry best practices because of the durability and structural stability those materials provide. And then there's also significant exterior maneuvering area. You can see that in the image in the upper left. It provides convenient, safe, and orderly traffic flow into and throughout the site. And we took care to design the facility and roadways so that there's ample on-site queuing and parking areas, so trucks won't be backing up onto Production Drive. And we're going to be continuing to work with the county to make sure that all those traffic and site use requirements are addressed. Other elements of the facility design, like the grading plans, pavement design, stormwater management features, are all in development. They'll be continuing to develop as permitting proceeds, and we'll have to meet requirements for improvement location permits and building permits. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Ted to talk about the operations of the facility.
Thank you, Christina. We very much appreciate your support on this project. You've done a great job. And you moved quickly, so I appreciate that. In a moment, I'm going to show a brief video. I've asked Steve Sargent, our Director of Recycling, to narrate it as we move through the video. So it'll, I'll pause and then start it up, at a few points in the video itself. Regarding operating requirements, there's a whole host of additional layers of protection that come with operating procedures, operating requirements, and compliance with those requirements. There's a few that I highlight here on the screen. Many of these will be addressed through the future permitting processes. Agencies like Environmental Department or Indiana Department of Environmental Management. First bullet, I show daytime operations. It's anticipated this facility will operate between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. 6 days a week. Most likely Saturday will be a half a day. Christina mentioned screening and site security. That'll be essential and part of the permitting process as we move forward. There'll be requirements for daily housekeeping. The waste will have to be removed off the floor daily. Material handling and screening and acceptance procedures, nuisance control requirements, as well as health and safety and environmental compliance training. So there just a whole host of operating requirements that we placed on the facility. That's over and above Rumpke's nearly 9 decades of experience in the industry. The company's been fantastic to work for. They pride themselves on protection of public health and safety and environmental compliance. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to start a video. Apologies if I don't pull this off quite well enough. And what you're going to see here is a quick rendering, video rendering of the facility. Do you see that? Can you see the video?
Yeah. Yes.
Here we go. I'm just going to pause it for a second and just kind of show you. It's anticipated that, as Christina pointed out, that there'll be plenty of maneuvering and queuing space available, something that's convenient and safe for the public and for our vehicles. Start this again. Vehicles will come in, they'll move across the scale, and then work them back into the facility. And Steve, at this time, maybe I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, once it comes in the building, it becomes mine. So that's good. So let me explain a little bit about what happens inside the building. From a high level, there are 5 functions that happen with this design of this property. 2 with MSW, with solid waste, how do we handle that? And then 3 functions primarily that are focused on recycling. I'll talk about recycling first. Just in a little bit, we're going to click the video in a minute and show you the outside glass depot. Rumpke's run glass depots in the past. This is for mixed glass, by the way. You don't have to color separate your glass. We don't need to do that in our operation. You blend all that colors together so that way you can really maximize your space. That'll be outside the building, but there's a recess on the left side there that it's under roof, it's covered, and it's kind of kept clean. but it does not come into the inside the building. So that's really important to us not to blend that material with other items. I don't want organics or burnable material in my glass. So this is really designed very well. That's one. Number two, the segregated recyclables. The two bunkers you see to the left, that's segregated material that has come into this building. I'll use an example. Let's say someone wants to, let's say you've got a local contractor that does cleanouts for homes and residential folks, and they've got a lot of cardboard. Well, they could bring that cardboard to the facility, and we would actually pay them for that if they keep it segregated. That would go into a bunker. The material from the solid waste district now, that's actually in some cases being consolidated back together, and you have a tipping fee on that, where it's being taken for recycling later. We would then keep that material isolated, separate, and ship it directly from this location. So there's a segregated stream that comes in. The third is single stream. You'll see a little bunker to the upper north of the picture. We don't know how much will be coming in, but we can handle all the single stream. Rumpke is actually one of the largest single stream processors in the Midwest. So if there's single stream that needs to be coming in, we can actually handle that and address it in this facility. So there's a lot of functions that can happen. So Ted, if you want to go ahead and start it, here's a great example of recycling from the commercial stream. I'll show you that this is a front load truck of commercial material. What we will do, we'll extract the material on the floor that we can see, take it to our baling operation, and then that material then is swept over as non-recyclable to the storage location. Now, here's where I mentioned we're investing about $1 million in this facility, just in a baling operation. With the feed belt and the 2-ram baler, that material can be consolidated. The trucks will be sitting there. As a matter of fact, that load that you just saw would be heading right up to Valparaiso. If you'll stop it there, Ted. So to refresh, if material comes in mixed up in a roll-off box and it's commercially recyclable, we're going to remove that on the tipping floor. We want to get that out before it goes to the landfill. Then the residential waste, we don't sort residential garbage. And I want that kind of be made aware that we don't believe in hand sorting or getting into the garbage streams of someone's household. There's so many issues with health and safety involved in that, especially in the world we live in today. We don't do that. But that material to the left, you'll see is kept inside the building. That's the residential MSW stream. Go ahead, Ted. And then our loader, again, works on the floor, and then they'll start that up. And then an inside trailer, as we talked, and Christine mentioned, we have to follow a lot of the rules and regulations. That material moves on a daily basis. It's loaded inside the facility. It's neat and clean, and it's done very well. So we've designed the facility to handle that. Now, here's the outside dumping area for glass. It does not have to be a roll-off, by the way, coming in. But let's say, for example, the solid waste district wants to bring their glass there. We want that glass to be consolidated there. And then instead of a 2 or 3 ton load coming in like it's showing here, we would consolidate that then when it's ready into a 20 to 22 ton legal load trailer to come out of there. Greenhouse emissions, less fuel, all those things per ton is what we focus on. We have to do that in glass, by the way, because there's not a lot of margin in that business, but we would have to then really kind of focus on that opportunity. So it's an outside area. The public can come there if they need to, but we would probably want the public to go to the drop-off locations for the community, but there's a cost savings to coming here. So that's kind of the 5th function built into this facility. So it's quite comprehensive. I think we've done it well within a 24,000 square foot footprint. Ted?
Steve, thank you.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and fade out here a little bit and kind of show you and stop kind of with a facility overview so you can kind of get a feel for what all will be included at this site. So in just a moment, I'm going to turn to some of the economic value created from this facility. As you'll see, we've got kind of a fairly comprehensive approach to improving recycling capture rates within the community, efficiently moving that material direct to market. Steve may have mentioned this, but there is a significant number of end markets just within the state of Indiana alone. So not only will it create economic value right in Monroe County, but it'll also create it in the state, creating this great circular economy within Indiana. On the premise, you'll see in the upper right quadrant is a hauling facility and administrative center for Rumpke. That's also proposed as part of this project. It is a permitted use under the heavy industrial zone classification. So overall, we anticipate that this facility will employ anywhere from 25 to upwards of 50 people at full build out. Let me just kind of finish the video here. You see vehicles kind of queuing in. And hopefully you guys found this video helpful. I know there was a lot of questions about what is this facility, what will it be, and this kind of is a brief rendering of what it would look like. There's still a lot of permitting left to do, so things may be tweaked a little bit, but we believe this generally falls within most of the permitting requirements. So at this time, I'd just like to talk briefly about some of the economic benefits associated with this project. There are a lot. Overall, we think that this will be an estimated $1.6 to $2.7 million a year benefit to the community. Rumpke is not asking for any public assistance or financial support on this project. We think that the economic value comes in multiple dimensions. One, jobs and the economic multiplier associated with those jobs. Two, direct investment. This facility is expensive to develop, anywhere from $10 to $15 million, maybe even more as we move through the project. There'll be increases in local tax revenue. It's an undeveloped site today. As we move forward and develop that site, that will increase tax revenues for the community. And then due to our footprint within the community, we think that there's a significant avoided cost savings to the community for lower cost of recycling, maybe even rebates for certain customers. As Steve pointed out, lower cost of disposal, lower cost of waste collection, pretty significant financial benefit flowing back to the community when compared to other counties that have multiple facilities like this. And then finally, we've committed along the way of engaging the solid waste district with an agreement to help them fund their ongoing efforts. We love that they take time to source, separate recyclables, really creating value that is complemented by this facility. So, again, commissioners, we want to thank you for your consideration on this project, a project that enhances environmental sustainability, really complements Monroe County's recycling and diversion efforts, and creates jobs and economic value for the whole community. So at this time, that was just a brief overview of the project. I'd like to turn it back over to the board.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Nura, Mr. Sargent, Ms. Siebert. We appreciate the detail for the public's sake. It's always good to have that. Let's see first if there are questions from my colleagues. Commissioner Jones?
Yes, I was just wondering if you'll be constructing this in phases or if it'll all be at once.
It's anticipated that it'll all be at once. There has been some discussion about whether to advance the hauling companies sooner. I think generally we're going to move through the permitting as one facility to include the hauling piece as well as the recycling and transfer piece, and then build it after all the permits are received.
Thank you.
Commissioner Githens?
No, we've had the opportunity to hear some of this a couple times now. So I do appreciate the fact that folks affiliated with Rumpke have responded to our previous questions. It's been very nice.
Thank you.
All right, and I know one of the questions that came up earlier was how often waste is removed from the site. In other words, would waste be sitting at the site, household waste be sitting at the site for days or weeks, creating a health hazard?
The answer is absolutely not. We'll be removing waste as it comes in, not only throughout the day, but at the end of the day.
Great, thank you so much. I'm just kind of reiterating a question that came up through a bunch of emails and that was asked at the last meeting. So I just want to make sure we got that answered again.
Sure.
So this is a public hearing. So let's see if there's anyone from the public who wishes to offer comment on this item.
Looks like we have one hand raised.
All right, thank you, Ms. Dayton.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello. Thank you, commissioners. My name is John Rickert. So I have a few questions that I wanted to ask. And one, I was wondering what Republic prices are right now compared to cities with 2 or 3 stations. To question the competitive prices. 2, Rumpke, I believe, used to own the transfer station half a mile away from where they're proposing a new one, and they sold it out to Hoosier Disposal, and which is Republic. And so I was wondering, with the longevity, if they would do that again, or what's their commitment to Monroe? And yeah, the 1.6 to 2.7 million. I was wondering if Republic is able to handle all the recycling and trash right now, or how much that would drive revenue in now. So those are my 3 questions.
all right, thank you, Mr. Rickert. Does someone from Rumpke wish to respond?
Sure. Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. And if I stub my toes, Steve or Christina, feel free to jump in. Let me make sure I've got the 3 questions down. One had to do with, I think, pricing. You know, will our facility in this market create a competitive advantage for the residents and for the businesses of the community? 2 was, you know, Rumpke was here like 20 plus years ago. Does it plan to stay here this time? Is the short question. And then 3, I think it was one relative to recycling, you know, promotion of recycling. Is there enough capacity, you know, with just Republic's facility? So let me address the first one relative to just competitiveness. You know, you can drive by Republic's facility. I think their gate rate is somewhere around $55 a ton. You drive down to the county south of you, their rate is in the upper 30s per ton. So that's a county controlled facility in the county south view, and it's competitively bid out on disposal. So we anticipate that there'll be a substantial reduction in overall cost to serve, not only at the disposal level, but also on the street, you know, competitively with collection vehicles. Doesn't matter whether it's residential users, residential open market users, commercial users, businesses, or industrial users of the facility. So significant economic benefit there. 2, recycling. You know, we, as Steve keenly pointed out, this facility is really designed to complement what the district is doing today. There's an enormous amount of energy invested in source separating recyclables, everything from fiber to various plastics, glass. This facility will really complement that approach and really help drive the value that's already created there in the community and allow us to take many of those products directly to market, which will be a savings that will go right to the community. Additionally, as we approach and look at the business, we look at it as an integrated offering. Yeah, many folks in the community have heard me talk about this. We don't sell trash. We don't sell recycling. We sell waste and recycling services. And so having the ability to offer those services together collectively in a way that allows us to leverage not only the collection aspects of waste and recycling removal, but also the processing aspects of it, will really just save a lot of money and allow us to promote that savings to the community. You know, to address the, you know, Rumpke sold out to Hoosier. Boy, it's been several years ago now. You know, Rumpke prides itself, as Steve pointed out, you know, today we're one of the best managed companies in the U.S. 20 years ago, it was a slightly different story. They had to, they kind of had to do a reset. They invested in systems. They invested in accountability, driving not only a good balance sheet, but good environmental compliance, safe operations. That restructuring had them take a step back in some markets. This is one of those step backs that they dearly regret. They never wanted to leave Bloomington or Monroe County. So here we are, probably about 20 years later now, moving back into the community and doing it in the right way, like we did originally. You know, the vision originally was recycling and management of integrated management of those materials. So the third question had to do with capacity. Do you have enough capacity today? And is that good enough? You know, you have to look at capacity both now and in the future. Steve talked a little bit about the recycling goals of Indiana, recycling goals of your community in the solid waste district. It's really going to take both facilities to attack and support the community as you look out 10, 15, 20 years from now. Monroe County is really growing. There's a lot of focus, given the nature of the community, the demographics of the community, on sustainability, recycling, and you need that square footage. You need processing capacity to do it and to do it right in the future. If you ever hope to achieve a 30% or 40% or 50% diversion rate, you're going to need facilities to manage that material. And this really just helps with that future. Regarding trash and just moving trash out of the market, it's always nice to have an alternative. You never know what could happen at one or the other facility. In a facility like yours, you know, you're investing in an industrial base, you know, you've got the university there. You got to have infrastructure. You have to have essential infrastructure that keeps materials like this moving costs effectively. And that capacity is needed as you look at the growth trajectory of the community over the next 20 years. So Steve, Christina, hopefully I answered all of his questions. I know that was a lot there. So
I just want to jump in and mention with respect to the capacity and how much tonnage now is handled, you know, at Hoosier and where everything else is going. About 30% of the waste from the county gets hauled out of the county now in collection trucks, so not going through a transfer station first. You know, it's around 45,000 tons a year. So there's you know, a market need, it looks like, to be able to internalize some of that back into the county and get it more efficiently transported out to the landfills. And then I would just reiterate what Ted said as far as the, you know, square footage needs of facilities. And when we're looking at trying to increase recycling capacity and the recycling rate, the more that you're having to handle segregated materials, keeping those materials separate, you know, and making sure that the waste and the recyclables stay separate from each other, you do need that square footage and the capacity to do that. And then the you know, potential for competition to drive the innovation within the market and how those services are delivered to the customer are all really important considerations.
The only thing I would add is the Medora story is very interesting because I was here 20 years ago. We've invested millions of dollars in the Medora landfill in Jackson County, and that in Monroe County is within the scope of the area we can service. And you'll notice I had 18 transfer stations that we have built. So the way you do it today is you don't go out and put a landfill in Monroe County. You don't need that. We have the economies of scale down in Medora. So long term, we want to be here long term. And I think it's justified with our feeder system into our landfill and then also what we do in recycling. So hopefully we've answered that by trying to go around this a little bit.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Rickert.
Can I say it again?
I'm sorry?
Oh, am I still on audio? I didn't know if I was muted or not. Sorry. All right, perfect. Yeah, thank you for answering my questions. In regards to answering the first question, you said there was a transfer station just south of us a county that was 30 compared to 50 for the current republic. On your transfer station map on the presentation, I didn't see any in any of the surrounding counties. So I was curious where that transfer station was. And then also, I was more talking about if Republic Services already has the ability to handle what is currently available. And I know you talked about, like, you've been around 88 years. Republic's been around 22 years, part of the S&P 500. I mean, great company. I just worry about selling to them again, or yeah, just a worry.
Okay. So you have one question. It sounds like for Rumpke, related to the southern counties.
And I can jump in and answer that. With respect to the map that was in our presentation, that shows the larger counties in Indiana that are over 100,000 in population and how many facilities they have. So there's a big difference between how we manage waste in a small rural county versus a more urbanized county like Monroe. So yes, Lawrence County, just to the south of Monroe, has a transfer station in it. It's a fairly local transfer station. It's owned by their solid waste district, takes the majority of the waste from Lawrence County. Based on the size of that facility, it doesn't look like they would have any extra capacity to take in more waste. And then, with respect to the capacity at Republic's facility, transfer station capacity is a factor of the rate that it comes in and the rate that it goes out, and the ability to manage all of the traffic on site. There's a lot of elements that go into that, but there's also a lot of market consideration and who provides the collection and the types of materials that are collected and the manner in which it's going to be managed. So I mentioned before, there's about 45,000 tons of waste now that's being hauled out of the county and not going through the Hoosier transfer station. Whether they have the physical capacity or the business capacity to handle that, is a more of a business element for them, just as it is with Rumpke and the ability to secure tonnage that would come into this proposed facility here. And I'll leave it to Ted to speak to some of the other elements.
I think that addresses the question, actually. So, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rickert.
Can I continue then?
You have 1 minute left. Yes.
Perfect. So if the county south of us has a transfer station, how many counties around Monroe County have a transfer station? And how are you going to be able to take away the tonnage from them, staying competitive, not against just one transfer station that I thought it was, but all the surrounding ones? And yeah.
I guess I'll just keep answering on that. As far as other surrounding counties with facilities, there is a county, there's a transfer station in Martinsville, north of the county. That's an even smaller facility than the facility that's in Lawrence County. It's owned by the city. It's pretty well restricted to kind of city tonnage and immediately surrounding. So that tonnage that's leaving Monroe County now, that 45,000 tons, that's going by direct haul to landfills. A portion of it's going to Medora, a portion of it's going out to the Sycamore Ridge landfill, but it's going into those collection trucks directly. So we're not pulling from other transfer stations in what would be coming into this facility necessarily, aside from in-county competition that might be happening.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rickert. And thank you again, Rumpke, for answering those questions for the community. And I don't see.
There's one more hand raised.
One more hand raised, okay.
Monster Trash.
Can you give us your name, please? We have your company name on the.
Yes, my name is Craig Duforth. I'm representing Monster Trash, and I'm a local hauler in the area. I was just wanting to make a statement with my concerns and everything, trying to let you know where I'm at. We're currently seeking a transfer station in Owen County. We're a little farther along in the permitting process, but I'm having reservations now with my transfer station with two large companies in Monroe County, because it seems it'd be more beneficial to me to continue to haul trash to Monroe County as my company grows and to have my own transfer station. So I'm trying to weigh out the options, and I'm sure other local haulers are doing the same from Greene County and County and so on, just to continue to haul to Monroe County because you have a couple large competitors. It seems to work out pretty well for us. So I just letting you know where I'm at and what I've been doing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for calling in. Let's see if there are any other comments from the public for the hearing.
There are no other hands raised.
Great, thank you, Ms. Dayton. And so with that, I will go ahead and close the public hearing and see if my colleagues have any further questions before we move on to the resolution. Okay, excellent. Then Commissioner Jones, if you would please.
Move to approve public hearing and resolution 2020-52, determination to allow Rumpke to submit an application.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and it appears we do have another hand raised, so we can go ahead and hear that now as part of the public comment on the resolution.
Yes, thank you. This is Erica Morris. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. I did want to ask a few questions just to further clarify the facility. For this facility, is the recyclable material going to be pulled out of the household trash? That was almost alluded to, or is it going to have to come in as a recyclable stream? So we're not going to have separation of recyclables out of household trash. Additionally, I guess I would like a further explanation on how having two waste transfer facilities in Monroe County does further lessen fuel and emissions for the county rather than potentially doubling it, because now we have two sites, we have two sets of semi-haulers, we have, two sets of locations that basically trucks are going to and from. Now I recognize this may reduce hauling of tonnage directly to landfills. And then additionally with that, the other waste transfer site in the county is currently capturing all of the available recycling stream from what's being shared with me. So I'd like to understand how Rumpke plans to capture more of already a maxed out stream. And then as a final clarification point, I'd like to understand more about the recycled glass. It was alluded to that this would help with vial shortages in the pharmaceutical industry. There's currently the shortages coming from the ability of manufacturers to produce enough glass, and that's not related to recycled glass materials. So I'd like to get clarification on those points, please.
So I will address one of your penultimate question about currently having all of the recycled stream addressed. Currently, we do not have that because the Solid Waste Management District has to arrange for glass recycling right now, for example. There are, so as the problems occurred in China, we've seen an impact on our local recycling. So for example, nobody takes plastic bags anymore. So there are gaps. Who knows if they can be filled, but there are some gaps that are really important ones to fill. And that's, we have a really very narrow focus today for what we're looking at, concerns about traffic in general, or issues about the site. I would recommend for anybody watching who has those concerns to be sure to keep an eye on the Board of Zoning Appeals process, because they do take public comment there. Let's see if anyone from Rumpke would like to address the other issues.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. I think Christine and Steve, you may need to jump in on that. There was quite a few questions. I was trying to take note of all of them as Erica was bringing them up, and thank you for those questions, Erica. Your first question regarding greenhouse gas emissions. There's a lot that goes into those types of calculations. The more recycling you do, the better off you are. from a traditional emissions profile. So so for example, if you commingle a bunch of source separated recyclables and you ship them up to another market to be processed, you have, not only do you have to manage those materials transportation wise twice, you move them to another processing facility, and then you have loss or shrinkage in recycling as a result of recommingling those materials. So what we look to do in this facility is really taking a lot of those materials direct to market. So rather than everything going into one building, loaded in a trailer, commingled, and then shipped out and then reprocessed, this will be processed right there and shipped direct to market. Big advantage on greenhouse gas calculations. Two, as Steve pointed out, we look to mine commercial waste. So everything that we pull out, I think you made a comment that all the recycling that can be done in Monroe County is being done today. I think that was the inference from the comment. The reality is that's absolutely not true. There's more opportunity. Some keys to improving recycling is you've got to make it available. You got to have a willing partner to reach out to the community and provide availability of different processing techniques. Two, it has to be affordable. If I charge a lot for recycling, I'm going to discourage it. I'm going to drive it back into the trash stream and commingle it. So I mentioned about the culture of Rumpke. It looks at these customers as an integrated approach. We encourage diversion. We encourage source separation, but it's also part of a larger solution on waste management. So we like to try to bring affordability into the market to drive a higher user participation rate. So those are some key elements regarding mining household residential trash. Yeah, that's a little bit more complicated. I think there's, the industry has been looking at that for a very long time. Steve mentioned that earlier in his presentation. It's just difficult to do for a lot of different reasons, at the household level. So what you see us kind of sorting out on the floor there was more of a commercial load. We would do the same with industrials. So there's more there to get. And when you make things available to communities, there's a lot of people out there that are just willing to participate. We anticipate putting out commercial cans for source separated glass to drive even higher glass recovery rate, higher participation in the community itself. So as far as does two facilities double emissions? No, it would be just, once the waste, we look to have an emissions profile reduction, so we're not hauling our stuff all the way to Monroe County directly. We'll get efficiencies by having another transfer station in the marketplace, just from that perspective alone. Plus the facility's a lot closer. For the number of loads that the competitive facility has shipping out, that's 20 plus miles further one way, over 40 miles on a round tripper. That's a lot of extra road miles and emissions throughout the course of a year, throughout the course of a couple decades, if you want to think about it in that context. So Steve and Christina, I tried to write down everything that she said. I don't know if I captured everything, addressed everything, but.
One question that Ms. Morris asked was, are we going to recycle residential trash? And I addressed that, I think, earlier. We do not agree to that. Rumpke has looked at that in the past. That is not, matter of fact, Pratt Paper put out a document about 2 years ago. It said any paper recovered from the residential garbage stream would not be purchased by Pratt Paper because of the contamination. And we don't do that. So that's one answer to a question. The other one is on the glass. What the issue is recycled content glass. These manufacturers can make glass out of virgin material, but Anchor Glass in Lawrenceburg, Indiana called us this year about 6 months ago, and there was dramatic loss, and there's no flint or clear glass available, recycled glass, to go into the market. So there's a real shortage of recycled glass in the system today. So that's what we're trying to address.
Thank you so much, Ms. Morris. We appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, I do have one follow-up question, if I may.
Okay, you have a minute.
I do appreciate all of this discussion because I think it's very important for the community to be fully aware of the process. So certainly this is all appreciated. The one additional question I had was, if the goal is to drive the cost down for recycling and make it more accessible so that it's more people want to do it because of cost reduction, doesn't it make sense to actually raise waste transfer prices to instead discourage waste disposal and then push it towards recycling?
Okay, thank you for that. That's really outside the scope of what we're considering today, but I'll see if anyone from Rumpke wants to respond to that.
Yeah, it is. You know, we talked about having accessibility and affordability for recycling. Does it make sense to raise garbage rates so that more recycling will occur? You know, what's a little bit confusing about that logic is if the cost of recycling is going up much faster than the cost of disposal, then that argument doesn't make any sense. And so what you have to do is you have to look at it on balance. You have to look at an integrated approach so that you bring everything to bear: accessibility, affordability across the entire system. And so if you have one user locally and garbage rates go up by 5% and trash rate or recycling rates go up by 150%, then the reverse dynamic occurs. If you don't have enough solutions, affordable solutions on the recycling side being offered locally, the reverse occurs. And that's kind of, you see a little bit of a trend in Monroe County, and we didn't dwell on it, but that recycling and recovery rates have been rather flat to even declining. Now, there's some macroeconomic reasons for that, but maybe the bigger reason is the solutions are being limited and the cost of recycling is going up faster than the cost of disposal. So you have to look at everything together. You have to look at the total package. You can't just, you know, carve out part of an argument. So the short answer on it, does it make sense to raise garbage rates to encourage recycling? I can't answer that question without taking a look at a fully integrated solution for the community.
Thank you. That's very helpful to have that clarification and kind of broader picture. Certainly none of us in the community are experts on waste or recycling.
All right, thank you, Ms. Morris. Let's see, make sure there are anyone else who wishes to offer public comment on this item. All right, any final comments from my colleagues on the board?
Just that I think this is a pretty exciting opportunity for the community. It sounds like it will benefit the community in many different ways.
Commissioner Gibbons?
Yeah, I like the reduction of greenhouse gases. I'm not doing very well for a second here. And also increased employment, decreased costs for a lot of things for the county, for the solid waste district anyway. So I see multiple benefits to the proposed project.
Right, very good. Thank you, and thank you again to Ms. Siebert, Mr. Sargent, and Mr. Nura. We really appreciate you being here today and answering our community's questions. With that, I will go ahead and ask Mr. Cockrell to please call the roll on Resolution 2020-52.
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Giffens?
Yes.
Resolution passes unanimously 3-0.
Right. And again, for folks who may be seeing this after the fact, the Board of Zoning Appeals will be hearing some of this item for the conditional use permit. And there's also still a few more processes that they need to go through with the state of Indiana and IDEM, and the public may comment through IDEM as well. All right. With that, let's move on to item B.
Move to approve Convention Center Management Agreement, Fund Name Convention Center Operating, Fund Number 4005, in the amount of $380,688.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Cockrell.
Yes, and this is a 5-year agreement, and that is the amount for the first year of the agreement. So I just want to make sure that's clear. That number gets set every year based upon county council's determination. We've had a similar management agreement like this going for a number of years. This has a few changes to it, and the changes, I think, once I explain them, will be fairly obvious of why we made these changes. The first is that it recognizes that a CIB may be formed, and that this agreement may be assigned to that CIB. That we added that kind of thoughts and structures actually when we looked at the amendment for this at the beginning of this year and last year, that those were kind of where we were at with the convention center. It doesn't say it will, it just allows for that to happen if the CIB is formed. It includes language that would allow either party to terminate this if the similar agreement that the management company has with the Convention and Visitor Center, or Convention and Visitors Commission, Convention and Visitors Commission is lapsed. We want to keep the management of that consistent with both the CVC contract as well as this one. So this allows that kind of discussion if that were to ever occur. And the third, and probably the most obvious, is that they're having a current revenue shortfall, and we expect that to continue. We added some flexibility because that $380,688 is based solely upon essentially room rentals of the convention center itself. They do have some money historically that they've kind of saved up, and so it allows them to use that kind of saved up money to pay off this contract, as well as say in March, they don't have enough revenue to make that monthly payment, but things turn around for them, and in November they do, so they can kind of use that November payment to kind of fill that March deficit. So it allows for that. We never had those kind of issues before, so we had to make sure we built that into this agreement. So those are the major changes to the agreement, and I think they're all based upon things that, well, yeah, that makes sense given where we're at today.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Cockrell. Let's see if there are comments or questions from the board. Commissioner Jones?
No, that seems pretty straightforward.
All right. Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out to anybody listening after the fact that CIB is the Capital Improvement Board. So.
Okay. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item.
There's one hand raised.
All right. Looks like Ms. Kopic is joining us. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for considering this contract, and we've appreciated working for the commissioners for 30 years, since 1991, and appreciate your flexibility as we look to the next couple of years. It's going to be challenging. I'm not going to say that that's not going to happen, but I mean, we're obviously committed to handling things safely, strict protocols, bringing things back slowly when it's appropriate. And, in the meantime, we're taking care of the building, helping people manage questions on their events, looking a couple of years out, and helping people with, figuring out what that might look like. And, fortunately we had saved, in anticipation of an expansion. So that's kind of working out a little bit for us now. And, anyway, we're looking forward to the next 5 years and what all that could mean, and rebuilding the business and doing it safely.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate your stewardship of our fine convention center and all the great things that you've managed to do during COVID-19, for example, hosting the county's blood drive, which has been phenomenally successful and safe, and we appreciate that. For example, I know you poll worker trainings, and it's just been amazing.
Thank you. We appreciate your support as well. And oh my gosh, everything that's happening with the health department and what you're having to deal with right now. I mean, that is priority. And, we just need to get the community safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we are, all right, let's see if we have other comments or questions.
There are no other hands raised.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. Dayton. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the Convention Center Management Agreement?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Great. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
Move to approve the Surveyor Board new appointees.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Mr. Enright Randolph, Surveyor.
Hi, let me move my document over here so I can look at the camera. Good morning. First, I'd like to, oh, you can't hear me?
It's just weak.
You're quiet. You're quiet.
How about now?
Yeah, better. Thank you.
Better? Okay. First, I want to congratulate our newly re-elected commissioners, Penny Githens and Julie Thomas. Haven't had a chance, and I don't come and speak to you guys too frequently.
And so, same to you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to kind of unravel this story, and then I will kind of tell you what I'm here for at the end. So if you just entertain me, I kind of wrote this out because there's a lot of things that intertwine with this. Essentially, this is for the Surveyor Review Board and appointee. So reviewing the ordinance 97-49 that establishes the Surveyor Review Board, I did email Tech, and if they would like to, they could share the screen and bring up page 6 of the PDF. Was Tech Services able to receive that email?
I don't know if I did.
I sent it to the Zoom.
Let me
Anyways,
double check that.
If you can, we can refer back to it. So that establishes the Surveyor Review Board, which kind of officially approves our monument records here. So there was no stipulation in that ordinance with a residency mention. So when I was asked by Commissioner Githens if it was typical to appoint an out-of-county surveyor, I dug in a little bit deeper, and in the rules of procedure in section 2, she's popping that up. So that would be on page 5 when you get there. In section 2, it does stipulate a residency. So at the Surveyor Review Board, we discussed this in our last month's meeting, October, and board member Eric Deckard said it seems like it's difficult to get willing participants to serve, and said practicing / licensed surveyors who are working in our area, it would be good to have their input. So the rules of procedures was amended, and we only added the language and or practicing in. That is in your packet. You can see that part. We didn't change anything else. We just added that language. And the board supported it and approved it. So that would be on page 5. So we just added that highlighted verbiage, and that was approved. So that brings me to today, where there is a chapter 216, section D, unified provisions, that is another county code that does have a residency stipulation. So in conclusion, Well, one noteworthy point is that you have to be a professional surveyor and are subject to Title 865 of the Indiana Administrative Code, Rule 12, minimal standards for a competent practicing of a land surveyor to serve on the review board. So it really narrows the pool of people. And I also do think surveyors practicing within Monroe County can play a valuable role serving on the review board. So in conclusion, I'm here to request a waiver of provision D in chapter 216-2, the unified provisions list, and additionally appoint Rachel Ozer, a professional surveyor, to the surveyor review board. And Dave Schilling should be on the call since this pertains to a lot of legality. If there's any questions, and I open it to you for consideration. And thank you.
Let's see, Commissioner Jones, comments, questions?
No, not really. I do believe that this would be a good appointment.
Commissioner Githens?
Right, and this person, I believe you told me, lives in Greene County and does a good bit of practice here in Monroe County, so she's familiar with the area.
Well, her business is based out of Bloomfield, but she does still work here currently. Prior to it, she worked at a local surveying company here. So she's done a lot of her practicing in Monroe County, and additionally was our professional surveyor here at the county. So has a lot of history, and some of her family lives in the county as well. And so has a lot of history and knowledge here.
Mr. Schilling, do you have any concerns about this modification?
I do not.
Great. Thank you. Let's see if there's any public comment on this item.
There are no hands raised.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dayton. With that, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the appointee for the surveyor board, Rachel Ozer?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Githens?
Yes.
Motion to appoint is approved 3-0.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Enright Randolph. We appreciate you.
Thank you so
and
much.
just a quick note, we're going to take a break. Let's call it 7 minutes. And just FYI, Mr. Schilling, I know we have on our calendar a noon meeting. We're going to be late.
Okay. Thank you.
So can we do it right after this?
Yes.
Suspend our meeting?
Would we need to actually close out this Zoom meeting and go to the next one, or can we do it from this Zoom call?
No, you can do it from this Zoom call. Just pause the meeting and then open the hearing.
Great. Thank you so much for that guidance. While we had you, I thought I'd ask. So with that, with my colleagues, okay, let's call it a 7-minute break. And we will come back with item D at 11:57. Okay? All right, thanks everyone. We are in recess. All right, looks like Ms. Dayton's ready. She's already ahead of us. So I'm going to call us back to order from our recess. Thank you to the community for indulging us for a moment. And we will move on to item D.
Approve ordinance 2020-49 Woods Rezone.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Nestor Jelen, it looks like you're going to be presenting instead of Mr. Myers today.
Yes, can you hear me?
Thank you. We can, thank you.
Okay. Do a short presentation for this. So this is the Woods rezone from institutional to agriculture rural reserve. And this is a 5.65 acre parcel, section 12, Bloomington Township. It's at 3751 East Boltinghouse Road. So just a quick summary or background. The petitioner in this case would like to sell the property and they would like to construct a new residential accessory structure. In order to do that, they need to rezone the property to a zone that accommodates residential uses such as Ag RR. Due to the IP zoning, they cannot add the new residential accessory structure at this point. The reason that it was previously zoned IP is that it was owned by the Indiana Gas Company. But at this time, it's a residence located at the site. It's been a residence and is in private ownership, and the Indiana Gas Company no longer needs this site. So here we have the location. And then as you'll see, the zoning and the surrounding area also includes some IP nearby. And they would like to rezone to the Ag RR zoning district, which is also adjoining all around. In the comprehensive plan, we have this area as rural residential. And in the phase 2 map, we have this area as our rural transition area. As you'll see, the property already contains a single family residence that would be considered pre-existing. And in order to expand, again, they do need this rezone. And the area which they want to expand is fairly flat and free of other constraints. Here is an aerial of the property itself. It does have a few accessory structures existing, and just another aerial included here. At the petitioner's letter, they are having a realtor also represent them in this case, since they are intending on selling the property. And then just a note on some of the design standards differences between the IP zoning district as well as the Ag RR zoning district. So they're meeting all of the requirements for the Ag RR zoning district. So we don't see any issue with the rezone going through. The Plan Commission recommendation in this case was to send this forward 8-0 positive recommendation. And so staff is recommending approval of this rezone, and let me know if you have any questions.
Right, thank you so much, Ms. Nestor-Jelen. And let's see if there are questions. Commissioner Jones?
No, actually I don't.
Commissioner Githens?
No, thank you though.
Okay. I wanted to see if my colleagues have any interest in potentially rehearing this, and just something to consider, because we've done that with a number of cases since we moved to Zoom, because we used to receive cases at a work session, which we no longer hold. So just think about that as I see if there's anyone here to speak on behalf of and positively about the petition.
There are no hands raised.
Or is there anyone here who wishes to speak in opposition to this petition?
There are no hands raised.
Great, thank you, Ms. Dayton. Seeing that there aren't any hands raised among the attendees, I'll come back to the board and see if there's any further comments or questions, or if someone would want to continue this. For me, this is one of those corrections. It's being used as residential. It's been used as residential. It should not have been IP as soon as that house went on, but that's being addressed with the structures. So I wanted to see if my colleagues had any concerns.
No, I see no reason for continuing it. It makes sense to me.
Right. I think it just brings the zoning in line with what's happening. So
right, it creates compliance, and then it allows them to move forward with the sale. And I hate to hold up that sale as well. So, all right. So with that, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on ordinance 2020-49?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Githens?
yes.
Ordinance is approved 3-0.
Thank you, Ms. Nestor-Jelen. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. And with that, we will move on to item E.
Move to approve ratification of Indiana Family Health Council grant amendment for Futures Clinic. Fund name, Futures, Title 10, Fund number 8126 in the amount of $65,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Cottle, you have been so patient standing by. Can you tell us about this?
I sure can. And I not on camera. I had to change location. So no camera. You don't have to bother looking at me. So the Title 10 supports the family planning clinic that we have, Futures Clinic. We also get Title 5 and TANF funds, but all of those kind of combined under the umbrella of Title 10. Title 10 has a grant cycle of April through March, and we tend to get the money in pieces. So this is really just an anticipated amendment to get us through the rest of the grant cycle. We actually expected a little bit less, so this is a little more than we anticipated. And again, they just are assessing where everyone is financially and trying to make sure we have enough to get through March.
Great. Thank you so much. And as you mentioned, the clinic is open during COVID with, so please make an appointment. Commissioner Jones, comments, questions?
Nice to get more than we had planned on.
Absolutely. Not a lot more, but we'll take any more than any that we can get.
Sure. Commissioner Githens?
No, I'm just pleased that we provide this to the residents of Monroe County.
Absolutely. It's a great service. All right, let's see if there's any public comment on this item.
There are no hands raised.
Great, thank you, Ms. Dayton. And with that, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on ratification of the Indiana Family Health Council grant amendment for Futures Clinic?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Caudill. We appreciate you and we miss seeing your face. Next item, please.
To approve life services grant contract for employee assistance program. Fund name, self-insurance, fund number 4,700 in the amount of $15,000.
Second.
Right, we have a motion and we have a second, Ms. Sensenstein.
Hello, this is something that Angie and I have been working on for a long time, it seems, just trying to figure out the right way to provide these services to employees. The current EAP that we use is through One America because we have their other products and it's pretty basic. So we were looking for something a little bit more, especially with the year that 2020 has been for us all. So the information that I submitted to you is for life services. They have a local office in the Showers building with therapists in that location. Employees would also have access to a network of, I think, like 40,000 providers across the country. There's offices in Greenwood, Indianapolis. If employees didn't want to go somewhere locally here in town, they can also access the services virtually or by phone. There's a website for employees to utilize the information on their site. So the services would be up to 6 sessions per employee per issue. Currently, the one we have now is 3 sessions per employee. Some things that I really like about this is that the services provide supervisor and employee support. So employees, we know that we have some 800 employees that have a variety of needs, but then also supervisors, if they're having issues with an employee in their department, they can make a phone call and they can get immediate assistance about that issue or what's happening and help get that assistance immediately. So I use $15,000 as a ballpark number. If we have, the last report I ran had 830 employees at a price of $1.39 per employee per month, put me at about $13,800. Life Services offers some wellness seminars, and I had them add into the contract 4 of those. If we like doing that, additional seminars would be $300. So I used a ballpark number of about $15,000. I think it's going to be a little bit less than that, but oh, and the other thing I wanted to note is that courts, probation, YSB, they're already using this. I spoke with them, and they had really great things to say about the experiences that they've had with this company in particular. So that was ultimately one of the main reasons why we chose to go with this.
Great. Thank you.
For me.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Sensenstein. Let's see if there are any comments or questions. Commissioner Jones?
It sounds like a very good idea to me.
Commissioner Githens?
Sounds like an improvement.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it really does. So when does this start?
If you approve today, we can have it in place. My goal was for December 1st so that it would be available to employees through the holidays.
That's great. I was going to ask about that. And also it's important to note there are financial counselors and legal assistants included as well, which is such a phenomenal benefit for our employees. So
and they're going to come, yeah, they're going to train. They can do, like, I would assume, you know, via Zoom, some sort of session with employees or multiple sessions. If employees want to know more about the program, they can do that. But then also training supervisors when to make referrals or how to encourage employees to use the EAP. So I think it's going to be really beneficial.
That's awesome. And it's great to have the virtual option right now too. That's really good. That's a really good benefit. So thank you to you and Ms. Purdy for working so hard on this. You found a little gem, I think. Very exciting. And let's see if there's any public comment on this item.
There are no hands raised.
Great. All right. Seeing none, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the life services contract for an employee assistance program?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Githens?
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Great. Thank you again. All right. Next item, please.
Move to approve Resolution 2020-51, interlocal agreement with Monroe County Township Trustees Association. Fund name, Rainy Day and General. Fund number 1186 and 1000 in the amount of $100,000.
Second.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Ms. Rice.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
I just am here to introduce and discuss this item. There aren't a lot of changes to it. It's really pretty simple. It adds an extra $100,000 to our agreement with the township trustees, and it extends the agreement for an additional 6 months. So because COVID unfortunately isn't going anywhere anytime soon, and we expect to see more requests for assistance, this agreement will extend that interlocal, this resolution and agreement will extend the interlocal. That period of time, provide a little bit more funding. We will have to take this to the council for their approval if you guys approve this today. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much, Ms. Rice. Commissioner Jones?
I'm just so pleased that we were able to work with the county council to provide this extra money to the townships. I have a feeling, especially as we get into the worst part of the winter, that it's going to be very needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Jones. I mean, people will turn off their air conditioning in the summer if they can't afford that utility, but they don't turn off their heat, or at least they shouldn't. And so I think that there are a lot of people that may be relying on us this year.
The need is great, for sure. And thank you for working on this, Ms. Rice.
I'll make one more comment before you vote. I do want to point out two things. yesterday, the legal department attended a continuing legal education seminar for local government attorneys. It was sponsored by a firm up in Indianapolis. And the topic of COVID and health department regulations and the governor's authority to act in an emergency situation was a topic of conversation. And they suggested that we watch what is going to happen in the legislature in the next, this next session, and to look at what power is given or taken away from local governments. So one thing we need to remember is that we do live in a fairly conservative state, and there are some people who don't necessarily love local government control or collaboration. And they mentioned there was a decent sort of libertarian vote in the state of Indiana this year. And so we may want to watch and keep an eye on what type of restrictions might be made on local government and our ability to be able to sort of work with our local partners. I frankly, no surprise to you, love the fact that we have the ability to work and collaborate locally, but we do want to make sure that isn't, we can do whatever we can to make sure that's not taken away from us at the local level. And this interlocal is an example of that kind of great collaboration. Second point I want to make is that this model of collaboration has been picked up on by human rights associations, our Indiana Consortium of Human Rights commissions, Monroe County to come to their conference next year and talk about our response to COVID and how this is an example of that, or, what we're doing with our eviction courts. And so we will be on their agenda for next year to have a panel. And I know Julie Thomas knows about this already, but there will be a panel for Monroe County to talk about COVID response, because that's the topic of their whole conference, is sort of our local responses to COVID and how we dealt with human rights during COVID. And so thank you to you guys for your idea to do this interlocal agreement, because I think it's going to serve as an example to others in the state.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's see if there is any public comment. I see Ms. Barrow is in the meeting. I don't know if she wishes to speak, Van Buren Township trustee or anyone else. There she is. Ms. Barrow, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And guys, thank you so much for this. I've had individuals to come in, and with our guidelines, the way they're set, it's very, very hard for us to go over this. But anything that I have turned in, we have turned in with the POs and the comments as to why we're doing this. And you guys are just awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barrow. We did hear this from township trustees, and we are at about we're over 39,000, I'm sure now, because that was about 2 weeks ago when we got that figure. So $39,000 out of the initial 100,000. So it's important to continue this through 2021. We're basically going to use our CARES money for this. That's the plan anyway, pending council approval. But anybody in Monroe County, any resident of Monroe County who's facing an eviction or a utility disconnection should contact their township trustee as soon as possible for assistance. We don't want to have to fix a problem later. We want to prevent issues. So please contact your trustee. Every county resident lives in a township and has a township trustee. So please contact them. They're a very helpful, thoughtful group, and they have a lot of resources, not just this, that they're offering to residents. So excellent. Let's see if there are any other hands raised. And as we wait for that, I'm going to say thank you to all the township trustees and all their staffs for doing a lot of work throughout COVID to keep our community safe and to keep people safe and warm and in homes.
Well, I just want to say, as a trustee, I just turned in 2,500 more. So it's beginning to really, really see what residents are needing, individuals that we've never spoke with before. So again, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Barrow, and thank you for being such a great steward for your community, for your township, and we appreciate that you waited to speak today, because I know it's been a little bit of a long meeting. I don't see any other hands raised for public comment. Okay, so with that, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on Resolution 2020-51?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Right, and thanks again, Ms. Rice, too. Thank you, Mr. Cockrell. All right, next item, please.
Move to approve Resolution 2020-53 to provide food and financial support to Pantry 279 and Wheeler Mission's Winter Women's Shelter during this pandemic. Fund name, general, fund number 1,000 in the amount of $64,251.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Purdy, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon. This actual item kind of falls right in hand with the item prior to this. And what this resolution does is it's going to provide $10,000 to Pantry 279 in Ellisville. They have more than 2,000 families who are in need of Thanksgiving assistance, and an anonymous donor has pledged funds to assist with this need, and you guys have approved to continue to provide assistance to our community and to give them the additional $10,000 that they need. So this resolution affects Pantry 279, and they will get $10,000. And then in addition to Pantry 279, Wheeler's Women's Winter Shelter is going to be instated, and that's intended to go until about the end of March. And this is where the county and the city of Bloomington are working together and providing equal amounts at a total of $54,251 each to Wheeler to help provide shelter. We have apparently about 40 women in our community who are homeless. And during this pandemic season, it's really important that they have a safe place to go to. So that's what this resolution does. So it's a total of $64,251.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Purdy. And I will note that the money is not just for Pantry 279, is not just for Thanksgiving, it's just for their fund to provide food, hopefully get them through most of this year. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, I was kind of disturbed recently to see that a large portion of those women who are homeless at this time are over the age of 40. I'm just really pleased that we're going to be able to help make them more secure for the winter.
Yeah.
Commissioner Githens?
Yeah, I'd just like to say something about Pantry 279. I was talking with the director, and she explained the story of the anonymous donor. The person had received an inheritance from a relative that they didn't even know. And they decided that it wasn't money that they were going to rely on, and they wanted to do something for the community. The donor said that they looked around, and multiple times Pantry 279 name came up. And so they issued the challenge, and the community met challenge, which is just fabulous. They were able, instead of, they were planning to provide Thanksgiving food for 2,000 families, and now they're able to provide food for 2,400.
Good, excellent. All right, let's see if there's any public comment on this item.
There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Dayton. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on resolution 2020-53?
Commissioner Thomas,
Yes.
Commissioner Jones,
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Next item, please.
Move to approve a proposed amendment to the Monroe County Continuity of Operation.
Second.
We have a motion and we have a second. Ms. Purdy.
Yes, this item is specific to our employees, and it came about as a result of a recent amendment to the personnel policy that's been approved by you guys, the Board of Judges and the prosecutor. And as a result of those amendments, it was noted that during this pandemic, it's important to continue to provide staff with 5 days of bereavement for their immediate family. So that's what this does, is as we are under our continuity of operations plan, the number of bereavement days that are available for our employees is 5, as opposed to the 3, which is what was updated in the personnel policy. In addition, this item also has modified level 4 to require departments to continue to actually provide daily information to our technical services department, who's gathering this for us, regarding the number of employees they have out of the office due to COVID symptoms, positive tests, or due to a close contact.
Great. Thank you so much. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, in looking at this plan over, and I know this isn't precisely what we're talking about today, but I wondered if it wouldn't be a good idea when it says that a face covering is required, that it be mentioned that it must cover the nose and mouth.
We could certainly add that. That would seem like that could be an explanation. I'll have to look. It might actually say what a face covering is. I think
it does at the beginning of the, yeah, but you're right. That might be useful just to go ahead and insert that in each one of the levels. Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, and not a Halloween mask kind of thing.
Right. So that's really, I don't know if we need to vote on that as an amendment, but it just seems like it's a further explanation of what's already there. Commissioner Githens?
I thank Commissioner Jones for catching that. Yeah.
I think it's clear. Yeah. Yeah.
It avoids problems.
Yeah. Mr. Cockrell, do we have to take that on as an amendment?
Yes, I think you should have that as an amendment.
Okay. So Commissioner Jones, you want to make that motion?
Yes, I move to amend the Monroe County Continuity of Operation Plan to insert the words covering the nose and mouth whenever a face covering is mentioned.
Second.
Great. Let's see if there's any public comment on the motion to amend.
There are no hands raised.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Dayton. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on amending the motion, the proposed amendment to the Monroe County Continuity of Operation?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Githens?
Yes.
Motion is amended.
Okay, so we have an amended proposed amendment to the Monroe County Continuity of Operations. This is the thing you could do after noon when you started your meeting at 10. Let's see if there's any public comment on the amended motion to amend.
There are no hands raised for the amendment.
Right. No amended hands raised either. Okay, so with that, Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the amended motion for the proposed amendment to the Monroe County Continuity of Operation Plan?
Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Githens?
Yes.
The amended motion is approved, 3-0.
All right. Thank you, sir. Next item, please.
Thank you.
Move to approve milestone change order number 10 for Fullerton Pike Phase 2. Fund name, local road and street, fund number 1169 in the amount of $1,825.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Ms. Ridge, you've been waiting so long. I hope you've been able to get to other things.
I was at the office this morning and I'm headed to another meeting. So this was kind of the in-between place. So
awesome.
So this is a change order for Fullerton Pike Phase 2. It was actually for some extra rock excavation that took place on September 10th of 2019 for the project. And it was for the one of the light foundations. So I can answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Comments, questions, Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Givens?
I was just surprised how long it took them to get us a bill.
Yeah, it takes a while to get these projects closed out. I mean, like what, 2 weeks ago, you guys just did one for Cedar Ford Bridge and it was open in June of 2019. But once you try and get down to all the numbers and matching of the invoices and the quantities between the contractor and construction inspectors, it takes a little while, a couple of years to close out a project. So we're getting there.
Thank you. Let's see if there's any comments or questions from the public.
There are no hands raised.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Dayton. Mr. Cockrell, will you please call the roll on the milestone change order number 10 for Fullerton Pike Phase 2?
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Jones.
Yes.
Commissioner Githens.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 3-0.
Thanks for staying around, Ms. Ridge. Thank you, Mr. Cockrell, for staying around. We don't have any appointments today. We do have a few announcements, and I will whip through these as quickly as I can. Just a note for everyone, again, there is a flu shot clinic at City Church tomorrow, the 19th of November from 12 to 3. There's paperwork online, and this is a quick and easy way to make sure that you're protected from the flu this year. Again, we've awarded about over $39,000 in township assistance, and that number is going up every week. And that's with the help of the council that we're providing this for residents. If anyone's facing utility cutoffs or evictions, that they need to contact their township trustee as soon as possible. So far in CARES funding, we have awarded $200,353, and that's as of the 12th of November. Sorry, that's as of the 17th of November. I can't read my own writing, and $85,713 to taxing units. We continue to provide that for any business in the county or social service agency who has some COVID-related expenses, non-personnel expenses that they need assistance with. They can apply at co.monroe.in.us. We may be announcing soon an extension of that time frame, but right now, please get those in by the end of November. We also want to note that we're taking applications for boards and commissions. Affordable Housing, Human Rights Commission, South Central Regional Sewer District are some of them that we especially need personnel for, but you may apply for any board or commission. Please go to co.monroe.in.us and run a search, and you can see the variety of boards and see how you can provide your experience and wisdom to help Monroe County government be even better. And it's going to be important to get those in soon, as we will be doing some interviews and making some decisions at future meetings, hopefully before the end of the year. Special note, we have a fire district. The fire district board is going to be expanding to include Van Buren and Bloomington Townships. Bloomington Township outside of the city, Van Buren Township outside of the city. So if there's anyone who has experience with fire departments or government budgets, is encouraged to apply to serve on the fire district board to represent those two townships. And again, they cannot be city residents, and they need to be a resident of that township. A note quickly that we are not meeting next week because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So our next meeting is going to be December 2nd. Wow, December. And Monroe County government offices are closed on November 26th and 27th. The Canopy of Lights, which would normally be held after Thanksgiving, is going to be not be held, and that's to protect the health and safety of our community, and as I say, Santa as well. And we are going to, you're going to see a video come from Downtown Bloomington Inc. So you can celebrate the Canopy Lights virtually, but of course you're invited after Thanksgiving to come downtown safely distanced and masked at any time to enjoy the lights. And we do want to thank everyone who joined us on Monday for our public conversation about the convention center expansion and renovation. If you missed the meeting, it's on CAT's archive. You may send, through the end of the year, you may send your comments to us, your thoughts, questions, ideas to ccr@co.monroe.in.us. Let's see if there are any comments, additional items from my colleagues. Commissioner Jones?
No.
Commissioner Githens?
Ms. Purdy's double checking for us, but I believe people can find which township they live in at our website. So if people have a question about which township they're in, they should be able to get it.
Yes, that would be available in any of the county clerk maps. Any of the election or precinct-based maps will all indicate the township. And so yes, that would be great. And if you look at any of our minutes, Ms. Freeman has been so kind as to put in a link to all of the phone numbers and email addresses of each township. So if you need to find your trustee, please use that as an easy way to do it. In the meantime, we do want to wish everyone happy Thanksgiving. We want to encourage you to find an excuse to stay home. We want to encourage you to stay safe as possible so that we can move forward in our community. If we all start getting lax, we're going to move backward, and it's going to take us much longer to dig ourselves out of this. So that old phrase, flatten the curve, we're going to hear it again and again. So everyone, please stay safe and have a great Thanksgiving holiday. I hope you could connect over the phone or Zoom with those you love throughout the community or around the world. And with that, we are adjourned. So this is the Eaton hearing on unsafe building, which is continued from a previous date. Mr. Schilling.
Thank you very much. I'll give some background here. Sometime this fall, Mr. Eaton's residence at 2340 South Hickory Leaf Drive caught fire and substantially burned to the ground. As a result of that, there's charred building remains and household goods strewn about the yard. In response to that, on September 16th, the building commissioners issued an order requesting or requiring Mr. Eaton to demolish the property and to clean up the site. That order was personally delivered to Mr. Eaton's property on September 17th by Chris Knoll. And the order included a hearing notice, which set the hearing on the order for October 7th of 2020. And the September 16th order also had a notice of appeal in there, which basically said if Mr. Eaton is unhappy with any decision that resulted from the October 7th hearing, that he had 10 days to appeal that to a court. October 7th arrived, a hearing was conducted. It was clear that the house had not been demolished and the yard had not been cleaned up. So the commissioners affirmed the building commissioner's September 16th order. Mr. Eaton did not appeal that affirmation within 10 days, so it stands. And the hearing was rescheduled for today to determine if any progress had been made on the cleanup. And so today, the legal department will show, number one, that no progress has been made on the cleanup. And number two, we believe that one of the residents, Tom Osborne, will be available to testify as to the impact of this property on the other property, the condition of this property to the other properties in the area. And then after we make that showing, commissioners, we would request the imposition of a fine and the authorization to have the building completely demolished and removed from the site. And I will say that Mr. Eaton is masked and in the conference room of the law department at a terminal so he can participate today.
Great, thank you so much.
And I don't know if Mr. Eaton has any remarks he'd like to make, but if not, we would present some evidence to support our contentions.
Mr. Eaton?
He's muted at this point.
Chris, can you see if Stuart's muted back there?
Just give him a second.
Yeah, I think Chris is going back there to help him.
Okay, but where's the photo? Bottom. Don't think can see. Where's how do you put my photo in there? Well, first let's get you.
Hey, Mr. Eaton. Good afternoon.
Am I there? Okay, great. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks very much. Hey, Mr. Shillian, I have never been opposed to anything that you or the building commission has decided on. I have no reason to appeal because I am right on the sidelines, stomping my feet, wanting to get it done too. You understand that right from the get-go. I'm on your side. Understood? Okay. So bottom line is, I have been doing my homework, and it has been a grueling, time-consuming process. I was able to contact 3 excavators. Okay. One was BTR Excavation over there, and that was with the brothers. I think it was Kenny and Cisco. Okay. They are booked up through January. They are not able to get to me at all. And you're going to find that in any case, no matter whose house has burned to the ground, it's going to be difficult to find someone that's going to be able to have the schedule open to do it. Also, the second company that I inquired on is American Development and Excavation from French Lick. The owner, Jim Fleetwood, came up and inspected the property and gave me a verbal quote of $10,000, Mr. Schilling. And I was agreeable to that. I'm looking forward to seeing him do the job. Understand? The problem, however, is I'm going to have to go out and borrow some money. Understand? He wants $5,000 to begin the job. Understand? And $5,000 to complete it after it's been completed. So that's my go-to person. And he could get to me within a week, he said. I've just got to come up with the cash. That's always been the problem, finances. I don't know how many either of you could just go and get $10,000. You probably have to break into your retirement account. I understand that. But the third person that I called was Kreider & Kreider. And no, nice to mention Kreider because they were the ones who came the night of the fire and cleared it out so that the firemen could put the fire out. And I talked to Jeff Kreider the other day, and he said that his involvement with the fire was at no charge to the taxpayer. They did it under their own direction and as a help, okay? So I thank him for that, of course. You know, it was nice that they were able to be so close across the street up there on Liberty Drive. So of the 3 Kreider & Kreiders booked through January, it's the same story. They're all fighting the weather. That's their friend right now, or foe, depending on what they need to get done. But American Development and Excavation, Jim Fleetwood out of French Lick, is who I'll be going with and who will be working on the property to get it cleared off. So I'm making progress. It was difficult to find somebody. I never heard of this. So I can't remember now where I got this lead. But I'm also working on raising some funds. As a veteran and member of Post 18 here in Indiana, I've got a lot of opportunities. They have contributed $400 to my cleanup fund. I've got a long ways to go, obviously. That's a big help. And also, as the Sons of the American Legion, I'm going to get some additional help, whether it's cash help or whether just housing. I have no idea. But I've got a friend that is also, she's an attorney, and her husband run for judge. I'm sure you've heard maybe Alfonso Mans, Mr. Schilling. He, his wife Dolly, is a very good friend of mine. We've been known each other for over 40 years. But her daughter, Sojourner, has a friend who has a friend. I don't know if you know how that goes, who's offered to help me with housing. But according to what I've got here, I'm good to go at cleaning up. I've just got to get the funds. That's it. And I'll probably end up borrowing I talked to Chris about this, borrowing the money from my dad. I think he'd be able to help me out in this case. Is there anything else I could provide, Mr. Schilling?
Well, I guess what the legal department is interested in doing is asking the commissioners to impose a fine of $5,000, which would be suspended if the cleanup takes place before the end of January.
I think that can be accommodated without any problem.
Well, that's up to the commissioners. That's just our suggestion, and they can decide whether the timing of that is acceptable or whether that's an acceptable approach. And the solid waste department has offered to assist as well. And I don't know if Mr. McGlasson's on the Zoom. He might weigh in on that.
He is indeed. Mr. McGlasson, good afternoon.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Yeah, I guess prior to the hearing in October, had some correspondence with the legal department, Mr. Schilling, concerning this situation, and I think that we're all aware that the Solid Waste District has had some involvement with this property off and on for a number of years. And we did offer, with some conditions, that we would help to coordinate the cleanup of the property. Mr. Schilling and I have had some emails this morning and confirmed the district's commitment to continue with that offer under those conditions, and we certainly are willing to do so.
Yeah, and what would the assistance be? I'm sorry.
Well, basically, what I proposed, what we would do, we would bring contractor of our choosing in, and we would clear everything off the site, so that is leave it as a vacant lot. We would ask that Mr. Eaton agree to enter into a lien against the property so that we would get reimbursed for the costs associated with that when the property sells. Also would ask that Mr. Eaton not involve himself in the cleanup and not be present while the contractor is on site doing the work.
So is that in place of what he has already talked to the French Lick company about? Or is that the same function? Is it two different things, two different tasks?
Different things. I was not aware of the arrangements that Mr. Eaton had been working on until today.
Okay. So these are two different, but it's the same process. Is it the same process?
Yeah, I think that if Mr. Eaton is able to obtain his own financing and get this done within a week or so by the American Development folks, then that would be a lot less paperwork for the county. But it appears that Mr. Eaton has two options, and two options that could probably be taken care of within a month or two.
Okay. We should probably hear from Mr. Osborne, who has been patiently waiting. You're still muted, sir. Mr. Osborne, Thomas Osborne? Okay. Well, let's see if he can join us in the next couple minutes. So Mr. Schilling, can you give us some guidance here?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Chris is trying to get a hold of Mr. Osborne right now to see if he's on and if he can.
Okay.
Himself. I don't know if there's any other neighbors that are on, or if the Van Buren Township trustee is still on. She may have comments as well.
And you also had some evidence. It sounds like you might have some photographs to show us too.
Yeah, Michelle, if Chris Knoll went out last night and took some photographs of the property and sent those to Michelle this morning. She can pull those up for us. There's Chris's affidavit. And then this, you can just see that there hasn't been any change on the property, the condition of the property, since we met in October. I think there may be 4 photographs total.
Okay.
Osborne says he's trying to get unmuted.
Okay.
He also said that, he'd also like to see him produce quotes.
Yeah.
That's all the pictures.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Dayton, can you give Mr. Osborne some verbal instruction about getting unmuted?
It would depend on what device they're using. If they're using a computer, usually it's in the bottom left-hand corner. They may have to move their mouse around to get the control to appear. If they're on a mobile device, they likely need to tap the screen to get the controls to appear, and one of them will appear as a little microphone that they can tap.
Okay, so we'll see if that helps. Thank you so much, Ms. Dayton. We'll see if that helps Mr. Osborne. Ms. Barrow, who is an attendee, did you have any, did you want to make any comments? Or do you have any questions? There you go. We can hear you, Ms. Barrow. Do you have any comments or questions?
I'm sorry. I really don't have any questions or comments. I was just trying to find out exactly what was going to happen with this, because I do have residents that are calling me, asking me what can they do. So, really, I think this is something that they are wanting to get accomplished, the same as what Mr. Eden is, but there has been multiple individuals that have sent emails, phone calls concerning this property.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Barrow. I can appreciate that. It looks like Mr. Osborne has been unmuted. Mr. Osborne.
Yes. Yeah, realtor that lives in the neighborhood says that even before this fire happened, it was hurting property values, and we'd like to have something done. Yeah, it's really, really quick.
Okay.
A neighbor to the north has caught 9 big varmints in his traps, and we know exactly where they came from.
Okay.
The realtor has said, even before the fire, that it was hurting the neighborhood sales of property. We would like for something to happen before the weather hits.
Right. Thank you. My colleagues have any questions or comments, Mr. Osborne or Ms. Barrow?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
I do have a question for Mr. McGlasson.
Yes.
That's okay. If solid waste district were to clear things out, what kind of charge would, or what's the size of lien or charge would Mr. Eaton be experiencing?
Can't answer that at this time. I mean, we've talked with a couple of our contractors that we regularly work with, confirmed their interest and availability to do the work, but neither of them have looked at the property to give us a price.
All right. Well, we do appreciate the solid waste district offering to be the backup for us if Mr. Eaton is unable to get this property cleared on his own. I'm wondering, just given the situation for the neighbors, if a shorter timeline is possible than the end of January, because that's a heck of a long time to be waiting for the neighbors. So what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Eaton?
Well, it all depends, of course, on getting the funds to pay the person that's going to be clearing it. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, got to get the funds, borrow it. And I believe that we can get it done. Let's see, today, let me see if I get my calendar out. So hold on, please. Today, oh, by the way, I do have a for sale sign if anybody's interested in the property. I did get a very good offer, by the way. I got an offer of $67,000, which I, expected and I thought was going to be acted on.
Okay. So
it was through a wholesaler up in Indianapolis, a real estate company. It was basically acting as like a bird dog, if you understand. And when the person came by to check out the property, he backed out of it. So
right.
I was then offered a significantly lower amount.
Okay. So today's November 18th. So what do you think would be appropriate?
All right, hold on. He's trying to get all this stuff out of the way and clear it out. See, today's the 18th. A week would be the 25th. Then you got all these holidays coming in. You got Thanksgiving coming up. Probably go the second week of December.
Great.
I think I can achieve the financing by then.
Great.
Okay.
So excellent. So we can even be a little more lenient than that and give you some time, not just to get the money together, but to get that company lined up. So December 16th.
Okay, that'll work. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Great.
it. Thank you.
Mr. Osborne, I know that's not ideal, but hopefully that will work for you.
Great. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Commissioner Thomas, as far as following up on Mr. Eaton's efforts, should there be another hearing set for around that time so that if it has not been cleaned up, that we can have solid waste possibly become involved?
Yeah. So that would be the date, December 16th would be the date we could continue this hearing until. Would that work for everybody? Yeah. Okay. Great. So I will go ahead and make a motion that we continue this unsafe building hearing for Mr. Eaton until at 2340 South Hickory Leaf Drive until December 16th, and we'll try for noon again. And I apologize, Mr. Eaton, that our meeting went very long. today, which is unusual, but we'll try for noon again, December 16th. And so is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Are we missing anything, Mr. Schilling?
No, just thank you to everyone who's participated.
Okay. Well, we need a roll call vote.
Yeah.
If you would do that, sir.
All right. All in favor of continuing the hearing to December 16th, 2020 at noon. Commissioner Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Commissioner Githens?
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eaton. Be well, and please stay in touch with us if you need assistance. Mr. McGlasson, if you need assistance, if there's any questions you have, stay in touch. And we appreciate that you've come in today. And thank you, Mr. Knoll, as well, for going out and taking pictures. Mr. Osborne and Ms. Barrow for being here. We appreciate all of you. All right. Thank you, and be well.